and welcome to Book 101 Review. Book 101 is all about the books that I read for the last 40 years. And today I have my special guest. She is educator, is speaker, meaning and covered name in motion, and of course, award winning author, no other than Miss Amy Lou Jenkins.
Well,
Welcome,
hi, I'm so
welcome.
happy to be here.
Welcome,
I'm,
welcome,
I'm,
Miss
I'm happy
Amy.
to be here.
Yes,
Great. Can you hear me all
welcome.
right?
Yes, I can hear you. So, can you please introduce more about
Great.
yourself that I miss?
Oh, sure. I was, when I was a little girl, my third grade teacher told me I was going to be a writer. And I won an important essay contest in high school. But I took a traditional path that people said I should take because I liked science and writing, and I became a nurse. But after 20 years of nursing, I went back to school in literature and writing. So I hold an MFA in literature and writing, and I've been writing and teaching books since teaching book writing, essay writing. I love all kinds of literature and especially narrative nonfiction. Narrative nonfiction is my jam. And I love it because it reminds me of if I have to read a textbook, the textbook might be interesting. But to me, narrative nonfiction is like going to a dinner party and sitting next to somebody who has maybe just come back from their fifth trip to Italy and they know all the insides and outs and can tell you all the stories, and it's fun and it's personal. And I would rather read a book like that than a textbook about Italy. So I fell in love with narrative nonfiction, although I'm still attracted to almost every kind of literature you can think of.
Miss Amy, thank you so much for sharing your knowledge and wisdom to the world. Thank you, thank you, thank you. And today, let's talk about your award winning piece, Every Natural Fact. Every Natural Fact is a beautiful and intriguing title. It suggests that details is nature hold profound truth. How did you arrive at this title and what does it mean to you personally?
Well, every natural fact is part of a quote from Ralph Waldo Emerson that every natural fact is a part of some spiritual fact. And so when we go spend time in nature, we're connecting to something authentic, some original source. And of course, there's another great essayist and writer, Jean Muir, said when you tug on anything in nature, you find it connected to everything else. So when I wrote this book, you can see there's a picture of a young boy on the front. I was approaching middle age as my son was leaving childhood and going into adolescence. And he was spending a lot of time with video games and things like that. And I had been the leader for the Cub Scout troop. And we camped. So he was used to being outside with me. And we decided to tour, take a lot of walks together, and to look at the questions that every generation has to ask anew, questions about spirituality, about death, about how are resources distributed so that some people are poor and some people are wealthy. How do we tolerate ideas that are different from our own? And how do we love people who are very different from ourselves? So when we walked in nature, the conversations happened quite naturally, and we were able to explore a lot of these big questions that have to do with identity. So, every natural fact is indeed um, a connection to a spiritual and authentic self.
Spiritual An authentic self. Definitely. What is the initial spark, the specific moment or feeling that set you on this path of intentional, mindful wandering? Was it need for solace, search for answer, or a simple curiosity?
Well, I think that I've always been interested in identity. I mean, one of my first favorite books was Jane Eyre, where Jane Eyre, I mean, is it's a very old book. I looked it up this morning. It's 178 years old, but she was trying to figure out how to be her best self. And I think today, when we have screens and TVs and um, advertisements everywhere you go, those advertisements, in order to get you to buy something, they have to first convince you that something's wrong with you. So, being a woman, you know, I need 7 different products for my hair. There's a problem with my eyebrows, my eyelashes, and I can just work my way all the way down my body from is the back of my hand as soft and pretty as it should be, and I can go all the way down to my toenails, and there's something wrong with everything, and there's a product that I or system or something that I should be using because I am a flawed individual. And of course I am flawed, but those are all lies. Those are all lies. And then when we get out in nature, we are reminded that we are a natural animal, that our existence isn't tied to these perceptions of perfection. And even as an aging woman, I am told all the time that my goal is to look younger. Well, I'm sorry, if I'm lucky, I'm going to keep aging. In fact, old is the goal. So, well, I don't want to look bad. Um, going out in nature tells you and shows you to be a little more realistic and quit chasing things that are empty. And I had these wonderful experiences with my son, and it was very meaningful to him. And he grew to love the natural world also, and I grew to be very interested in this idea of identity and the whole idea of what are the thoughts that are in my head that someone else put there for their benefit. And that is a theme I've continued to write about. In fact, my newest book that's coming out is called The Alchemy of Sass, and it's a memoir which looks at my identity throughout my life and the idea that I should be very careful that my identity is based on the values that I choose. And then I can evaluate if I am acting, speaking, and living according to those values. So the salesmanship of civilization is something we have to quiet. And in every natural fact, we look to nature to do that. And in my newest book that will be coming out, I look into my past to see if my values and ideas and voices in my head were put there by someone who didn't have my best interest in mind and wasn't put there as an act of love and growth and care, but rather put there for someone else's agenda. So this authenticity of identity is very important to me. In fact, I noticed a few months ago you had a fellow Franklin who had a book about identity manual. So I think a lot of people are thinking about, is my identity authentic? And is it serving me so that I can be my best self to serve the world? And that's a very American and, making a little circle here, Emersonian idea. Emerson felt that it was very important that we all, first of all, he said, you don't suck on the dry bones of your father. In other words, have some of your own ideas. but yet, of course, you do look to those traditions to find out which ones ring true, which ones are um, imbued in love and wisdom. But you choose your own values, and that's a very American idea. One of the things that is not not meant to be American was that the individuality and choosing your own values. You do that so you can do your own thing and let it hang loose and whatever. Like as long as you're not hurting anybody, you do your own thing. That is not what Emerson meant. What Emerson meant was to become the best you can be for yourself, and then take that best self and offer it to the world, offer it to your family, offer it to your community to make the world a better place. And he learned all of that at the beginning of the founding of the country by walking in nature. He and um, Thoreau, that's what they were doing, walking in nature, trying to find truth.
Miss Amy, you undertook these adventures with your son. How did seeing the natural world through his eyes change or deepen your own perceptions? What did he teach you about how to observe?
Well, when I was with my son, I am anybody who has children and loves their children knows that every experience that you have with them that's wonderful is at least doubly wonderful as they see it. So when we went to look in the natural world, and uh, we would get up early in the morning to go when there would be it's migration season. I know where there's a swamp and we're going to see all these different species of birds. And if we go at this certain time before mating, they're not going to be territorial, and there's just going to be this proliferation of life there that's going to blow his mind. I know it is. And then you hope when you get there it's like that. And that's what happened to us. Of course, I was very um, purposeful about wanting to give him wonderful experiences. And I would give him guidebooks so that I wasn't always being the teacher for him. And the other thing was that it wasn't just that we were seeing wonderful things that sparked conversations. Like if you see a dead fox, like once we came upon a dead fox, and the dead fox, I was kind of grossed out by it. And he goes in and he looked up close. And, we started then taking a good look at it. And the fox was being consumed by bacteria, by bugs. There was like a helmet of insects, just a force field, like in a helmet, invisible helmet, just buzzing around, making noise. The fur was almost animated by the life consuming this death. And we had this conversation of what what was it that was grossing me out? Was it the death or was it the life? Because this body was just buzzing with life. So you can imagine with a child, he was about 11 at the time, um, what that sparks. And there you are out in nature talking about life and death and how life feeds on death. And you can see this circle in action. And we're on a hike, we're walking for hours. So you have a conversation, and then 20 minutes later, then he brings up a subject. He brings up, you know, when when Grandpa Paul died, and then asks me questions about that. So it becomes not only this bedrock of values about how do we accept these cycles of life and death, but then it becomes personal. And there's time when you're walking in nature to have the conversation and to just be quiet for a while and think about it. And for him to have new thoughts and me to have new thoughts, and to be happy in the quiet and be happy in the conversation. So I would recommend this, and especially at this age, because At about 12, 11 or 12 years old, people think, well, their kids are pulling away so that, you know, they need more time alone. But I want to say they also need time with you and they need your full attention. And these walks would have been wonderful if I went all by myself. So, um, well, some people call this a parenting book. I don't think it's a parenting book. It's just, two evolving people really having these conversations about what they're seeing together. I think he was having as much effect on me as I was having on him. And he's somebody who has grown now to be somebody who is very assured about his evolving identity. And I say that as evolving identity because when you spend time in nature, you see nothing is static and we learn new things and we change and our ideas change and we grow. Um, but I'm very happy that those experiences we had in nature really helped him be a very thoughtful, loving person who's also a hard worker because there's a certain grit that comes from, camping, hiking, spending time in nature. And you also have to put aside some expectations of comfort. And, we do live in a world where we expect, comfort all the time. The temperature should be perfect, the chair should be perfect, everything should be perfect, and that is probably unrealistic. And it's another nice thing to learn in nature that you're not going to be perfectly comfortable all the time, but you're going to be surrounded. If you look for it, the wonder is there.
Miss Amy, as award-winning author, educator, speaker, what are your short-term and long-term goals?
Well, my short-term goal right now is I am working with a few. I have a few agents right now who are looking at me. I haven't decided yet about my new book, which is very important to me, The Alchemy of Sass, which is a book about identifying our values, as we talked about before. It's a memoir that looks through my life, but also the life of women who are often told to be quiet, to be silent. And my mother always told me I was sort of sassy, and I had to figure out how to embrace that and what to keep from my childhood. I had, like many people, I had difficult childhood, and um, what to jettison and replace with something that's going to work for me. And I don't want to. A lot of women, we feel like, we should sacrifice, sacrifice, sacrifice. But then when you become a parent, you realize, I also have a daughter, that I don't want to codify that just because you're a woman, your whole life is about sacrifice. What about these Emersonian ideas that we should be our best selves and develop our talents? And those ideas are so important to me. So this next book is very important to me, Alchemy of Sass. And then long term, as I want to really help other people find their voice, not only as a writer, but as a person. So I edit anthologies and help other people publish their stories. And people who are interested in this can find me at amyloujenkins.com and I can help them. We put out anthologies of their stories and have some writing classes for them. So my is really the whole idea that other people shouldn't be silenced, that they should find their values, they should find their voices, the gifts that they have that they could leave not only for the world to hear their voice, but for those voices, those stories, that wisdom that they've lived to live beyond them when they write. And fundamentally, when we use our voice, we can then start to become whole people. As a woman, I have to admit that I know a lot of women who are bullied, even in their own homes. So they are silenced and told their voices aren't important, and they don't want to make a fuss, so they just stay silent and they live a partial life. So I don't wish to teach people to be confrontational or to not listen or to not ask questions or to try to understand, but I would like people where they can do so safely to use their voice for good. So my long-term goals are all about a voice and wisdom and story and projecting that into the world.
Miss Amy, good luck to your goals and looking forward for more success. And what would be your piece of advice for those people out there who want to be award-winning author like you?
Well, I went back to school and got an MFA in literature and writing. I studied at Bennington College. So, but you don't have to go get an MFA. But you do have to read and figure out what you love to read and figure out what to think. And people who want to work with me, you don't even have to take a course. I would say go to amyloujenkins.com/belong, amyloujenkins.com/belong, and you can get a free copy of Every Natural Fact. And when you download that copy, you'll be on my mailing list, and I'll send you a couple times a month an email, and I'll support authors and support authenticity and support voice, and we celebrate books together, much as you do, because books and ideas are important. So join me at amyloujenkins.com/belong, and let's together make the world a better place, just like Daniel is doing with this podcast.
Yes, thank you, Miss Amy, for that advice. And can you please recommend a book or books that influence your journey?
Well, I would recommend some old classics like Jane Eyre and Anna Karenina. And for newer books, I would say if you like science, Robin Wall Kilmer's Braiding Sweetgrass, which is her indigenous wisdom and scientific knowledge. I also really thought Roxane Gay has a book called Hungry, and it's about a Black woman who's overweight and looking at society and culture. Very brave, smart book. And I have another book, um, Ruth Reichel, and I'm saying this for you, Daniel, because I know you're a foodie. Ruth Reichel has a book called Tender at the Bone. It's a memoir, and she's a food critic, and it's hilarious and meaningful and full of love. So Ruth Reichel, Tender at the Bone.
Thank you for that recommended books, Miss Amy. Yeah, thank you, thank you, thank you. And before we wrap up our discussion for today, I'm inviting you to please do listen to my other podcast, people, because my abstract essay is already in fifth season, abstract poetry in second season, and my book 101 review in fifth season too. Comedy 101 in second season, and my food 101 in fifth season as well. Geography 101 in fourth season, and my baby podcast Law 101 and Mental Health 101. Love Letters in fourth season, as well as my movie 101 review and music 101, and Science 101 and Sex 101 in its second season. Please listen to them wherever you listen your podcast. So, Miss Amy, if you could leave our audience with one central natural fact, not necessarily a scientific, but the truth about life that nature consistently teach us, what would it be?
That you are connected to everything that has been and will be.
Indeed, we are interconnected, even the universe. Miss Amy Lou Jenkins, thank you so much for sharing your knowledge and wisdom to the world.
Thank you.
Yes, especially your award-winning piece. So can you please invite our listeners to support your book, your advocacy, or whatever projects that you're doing right now?
Yes, yes, please come to amyloujenkins.com/belong. Join the list, and you can find any of my books, Amy Lou Jenkins, wherever books are sold, online or in bookstores.
Yes, people, let's support Miss Emily Jenkins because if you support her, for sure, more and more empowering and award-winning piece like this to come. So, Miss Emmy, thank you so much for your time. Modicon people, see you soon.